Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Reshma, Academic Coordinator at Ghatkesa branch in Rockwoods International School, Ghatkesa. A very warm welcome to all our respected parents, educators, students, and well-wishers joining us today. On behalf of Rockwoods International School and Rockwoods Junior College, I extend my heartfelt greetings to each one of you. Welcome to another enriching session of the Rockwoods webinar series, where we strive to bring together educators, parents, and learners to explore ideas that empower students to succeed academically and personally. As you all know, our webinar series is conducted every Wednesday and Saturday to provide meaningful learning experiences and practical insights for students, parents, and teachers. Over today's webinar focuses on a challenge that almost every student faces at some point in their academic journey: overcoming the tomorrow trap, stress free study habits for success. How often do we hear students say, I'll start tomorrow, I'll finish it later, I still have time? Unfortunately, tomorrow often becomes next week, and next week becomes exam time. So, procrastination is one of the biggest academic success. It not only affects performance but also increases stress, anxiety, and self doubt. The good news is that effective study habits can be learned. And today's session will help students understand why procrastination happens, how to manage academic stress, exam stress, and how to build simple yet powerful habits that lead to consistent success. We are confident that today's webinar will provide practical strategies that students can immediately implement to become more focused, productive, and confident learners. So it is now my privilege and honor to introduce our esteemed speaker for this evening, Ms. Harshita. Ms. Harshita serves as a biology faculty member at Rockwoods International School. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree and a Master of Education and is a passionate educator about helping students achieve academic excellence through effective learning strategies and disciplined study habits. As an educator, she strongly believes that success is not determined by intelligence alone, but consistency, planning, focus, and the ability to manage one's time effectively. Through her interactions with students, she has observed that many learners struggle not because they lack potential, but because they often postpone important tasks and become overwhelmed by academic pressure. Today, she will share practical techniques to overcome procrastination, manage stress effectively, build productive routines, and develop study habits that lead to long term success. We are delighted to have her with us in this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm virtual welcome to Ms. Harshita. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Reshma ma'am. I think there was some issue, but we're here back again. And greetings to all. So we were talking about overcoming the tomorrow trap and certain tips, tricks, and habits, study habits that students generally of grade 6 to 10 or even higher can follow so that they can have their academic success and reach towards their academic goals. So most of us might have used this phrase called "I will do it tomorrow." We might have used it more number of times than we actually know, and we might have also heard our friends say, "Okay, the deadline is on Sunday or the deadline is on Saturday. Let me start on Thursday." Or maybe pushing certain tasks even at home, doing the homework later. I will do it tomorrow morning before going, before the bus comes, after bathing, after brushing. So we tend to push the task away. So this is what we are talking about. I will do it tomorrow. And that is the biggest hurdle to academic success. Why? Because delaying the work, it may be creating some sense of illusion of relief, but actually it's creating some anxiety amongst all the children. And that anxiety is real, but we don't realize it. So that is the hidden cost we are paying to fall in that trap. But how to shift? So success, it does not require endless willpower or for us to work harder. It just requires small, smart, low friction, that is practical habits that we can track on a daily basis to reach there. And we will be talking more about it. So why does this happen? Usually when we talk about I will do it tomorrow, and we think that, okay, we are just being lazy, or we blame ourselves for being lazy. And maybe even the people around us might blame us for being lazy. That is, it can be your parents, it can be your teachers. You didn't do it because you're lazy. Those kind of things we hear on a very frequent basis when we're talking about procrastination or putting work aside. But actually, it is not laziness. Procrastination, it involves certain kind of psychology, and where a lazy person, if we compare a lazy person, that lazy person is actually enjoying doing nothing. So when you talk about someone who's lazy, they're like, okay, I'm not doing anything, but still fine, it's okay, I'm chilling. But then when it comes to procrastinators, it is those performers who actually want to work, but because of some reasons they put it off. And because they're putting it off, they're under some stress and they're still thinking about it, that okay, I have to finish that work. It is constantly there in the background of their minds that I have to finish it. So procrastinators, they stress about the work, but they're avoiding the work, so they're stressing in slow motion. So that is why we say that procrastination is not laziness, but it's something different, because you're actually working mentally that you have to do the task. And one another reason is procrastination can also happen because it's a coping mechanism. For example, say um, when a child is not aware on how to go about a certain task, so they feel anxious or they feel confused, that I don't know what to do, I don't know how to do it, I don't know where to start. So these kind of questions. And one more thing, they might also not feel very confident. I don't know how to do it, and I don't know the subject. Some person, suppose you've given a maths assignment, and the student does not know those particular concepts, though they will probably think that, let me do it later, let me think, I will ask my friends later, I will look into YouTube later, or such kind of thoughts run in their mind, because they don't know what to do and they're not able to regulate their emotional self. That is why, and instead of going into like negative feelings like anxiety, instead of feeling anxious, they feel okay, for now instantly I'm gratified because I have put my task aside, I can do it later. For now I just want that immediate relief or that immediate cheap dopamine. But it is not going to help us, because later we will actually be stressing. So it's a whole kind of complete setup where procrastination is not talking about how lazy the person is or how the person cannot do it, but the person does not know how to start doing it. And because they don't know how to start doing it, because they're confused, anxious and all, they're like, okay, let me do it later. And and the person might prioritize something else, maybe using social media, or using going ahead and watching TV, just because at that point of time doing that task is going to feel really uncomfortable. And watching TV or using social media or going out to play with friends, that is going to be more helpful, because they're enjoying they're more comfortable. The brains are wired in such a way that they're going to get dopamine, and they're going to enjoy there instead of facing this uncomfortable emotions. So that is why procrastination actually happens. So this procrastination is actually a cycle. So initially the student or a person, any normal person, it can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to parents, it can happen to anyone, it can happen to teachers, it can happen to administrators as well. So they start procrastinating, and eventually, because they're stressed about the work, what happens is they start feeling guilty. Array, I should have done it earlier. I should do it, I should do it before time, because they're actually stressed of the work, of that task. But then what happens, because they're feeling guilty, they go into another panic zone where I'm not able to do it, I don't know how to do it, when should I start, I don't have enough time. So all these kinds of situations arise when you start procrastinating, and from that panic they start making excuses. Okay, anyway I did not know how to do it, or anyway I did not have enough time. So they submit or they hand in their work, but they're still procrastinating. And because they're making these excuses, and they're comfortable with themselves making these excuses, they start procrastinating again. So it is actually a endless cycle. We will be talking more about it. So here it is a loop. Suppose there is a big task and the student or the person is very anxious about it. Eventually they will start avoiding that task, and then avoiding happens because they are getting temporary relief, and from temporary relief they also end up in that guilt where they have not done it, they are stressed about it, and towards the end they are almost last minute panic. Okay, I did not finish my work, kind of thing. Now what this results into is that in academia, it results into rush tasks where low performance and surface level learning is there. So what this means is that, suppose I try to give an assignment. I am trying to do that assignment. My teacher has asked me to draw 10 diagrams of biology. Okay, so 10 diagrams of biology, and I'm not an artist. Now I don't know how to draw. But I have to see and draw. Now what I can do? I don't know how to draw. Let me do it later. Let me learn how to draw it and do it later is a positive mindset. But okay, I can learn. Anyways, I have to learn. It is very difficult for me to learn because I don't know how to do it. So I will do it, okay, tomorrow. Let me start doing it tomorrow. And then once the deadline comes, I'm like, oh, I have to do 10 diagrams. Let me start with one. And then I start drawing the diagrams, and I'm labeling it wrong. I'm labeling it here and there. There are a lot of spelling mistakes. The diagrams are not neat. Maybe while rushing to do it, I'm also tearing the paper. So all these kinds of things lead to low performance, where actually you want to give your 100%, but you're not able to give your 100% because of lack of time. And what over here I want to talk about surface level learning is, suppose a student wants to do homework. Now they had to complete, say, 3 or 4 questions, but they started very late because they have procrastinated till now. They start doing the homework, but then they end up using some other AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or something like that to do the work, because they don't have enough time now. Suppose I've given 45 minutes, the task actually takes 45 minutes to do, but because they're running out of time, and their bus is coming, or my parents are scolding, I need to eat food, all these reasons, excuses that constantly come up, they end up pushing it, and then they resort to easier options which are not actually helping the student to learn. They don't actually go through the question, because that's just copy pasting, which is not good for them. So that is what I was talking here about low performance and surface level learning, and how that affects academia. So if you're going to present low performance, and your assignment, that 10 diagram assignment, is graded out of 10, and because of all these reasons and all these situations and circumstances, the teacher might grade me 7, when actually I can do a 10, I can get a 10, I'm getting just 7. So that is low performance. And if I am supposed to also learn those questions that my teacher asked me to do as part of homework, I'm not learning it because I'm using AI, or I'm using some other friend's notebook to copy it. So I'm not at all learning it, and that does not serve the purpose. Now what happens is, this is a as I said, it is a cycle, and it constantly repeats, and procrastination is a habit in itself. So this cycle repeats, and it destroys the self confidence. So I for example, like I said, if I am a person and I do not know how to draw, suppose the next time there is some drawing assignment given with which is related to biology, I will start thinking the same thing. Last time I was able to do this, I was able to complete it and all that, but I don't know how to draw. Even then I have done it, so that is a good thing, and I'm going to repeat the cycle by giving myself excuses, which is going to destroy my self confidence. Over the long run, what will happen is, because of the low performance, getting low grades, the student might start blaming their own self for getting low grades, saying that maybe I'm not actually good. They start doubting themselves. Maybe I don't know how to do things. Maybe I'm not a high performer, or maybe I do not know how to actually do it, because of which, I'm getting low marks, and maybe that is who I am. They start making it a part of their identity, which is not good, and that causes, certain psychological trauma, because it's affecting the self confidence, and over a long run it's also going to cause them some kind of permanent stress, which is not good for them. Here the example that I've cited is like postponing a chemistry lab report until midnight before it is due, and leads to a messy layout. Maybe the layouts are wrong, and then you start entering incorrect formulas, the calculations might go wrong, and then towards the end you actually feel like you've lost. So that is the kind of destroying self confidence that I'm talking about. Now, certain strategies to cope with this academic procrastination that I've jotted down here is, one is the Pomodoro method. Now, this method, it speaks about chunking down your task with respect to time. So you're making it into a bit-sized interval task. So you plan for 25 minutes, you go ahead working for 25 minutes, and then because you have completed it 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. So that is what this method talks about. It may be a little difficult to implement initially, but then with the other techniques that I'm going to talk about, Pomodoro method is surely suggestible, advisable for most of the children, because they do need that break. They do need that 5-minute break where they can think about, okay, I have finished 25 minutes, good job. So they do need that break. So the next strategy is progress over perfectionism. So this is one of the most common um, reasons to procrastination, where students, they think that I need to do the task perfectly. If I do it once, it needs to be 10 on 10, otherwise I'm not doing it. So what happens, thinking of, okay, this is the perfect time to do it, they start procrastinating it, and eventually they do not do it, and when they start doing it, it does not help them. So here what I'm talking about is, instead of doing perfect work initially itself, you start doing small messy work, and then maybe you can modify it. You can do it 1 or 2 times. Give yourself enough time to do it multiple times, so that you can actually fix your work, rather than what I mentioned here. You can fix bad work, but you cannot fix zero work. So if you don't start working because you're procrastinating that it needs to be perfect, you cannot fix if there are certain errors that happen. So always we need to prioritize progress over perfect work. Next thing is 2-minute launch. Now this is my most favorite, and research suggests this one, and my mom has also told about this to me. So if you're starting a task, suppose you have to write your notes, you have to start writing question answers for English. So there what happens, children find question answers, okay, 10-15 question answers, I may not be able to do it. So they take, what 2-minute launch talks about is that, instead of thinking of the question answers, you just take 2 minutes, take the notebook and write today's date or today's day, or what is the chapter about. So just that 2 minutes you enter into that task, so that you have crossed the starting line. So crossing the starting line is the most difficult part of a procrastinator. So if you cross that starting line in the first 2 minutes, it is very hard for the student to think, okay, I started writing. It is hard for the student to think that, okay, I'll not do it now, I'll do it later. So pushing it off later will be difficult once you start committing to that task in those first 2 minutes. The next strategy is pre-written to-do list. So now here, instead of going to your work table thinking, what am I supposed to do, what is my agenda for today, you already have it written down, mapped out, maybe the previous night or the previous day when you're ending your day. If you have it mapped out, when you enter into the work zone or study zone the next day, it's going to be easy for you to identify these are the tasks I'm going to work on. So what happens there is, instead of sitting and deciding at that moment and wasting your time to decide what am I supposed to do, you already have a plan, proper plan, which will help you to work better and efficiently. The next one is study buddies. So this is also something that we at Rockwoods also believe as accountability partner. So when you have a study buddy, suppose you're having something difficult, you can obviously discuss with your study buddy. Now that study buddy could be your peer, it could be a group, it could be your parent, it could be also your grandparents, where they are helping you to body doubling means one person, I am studying and I have another person who's also doing their work. They're not supposed to disturb me, so they also need to be accountable for what is happening over there. So with this study buddy, what happens is, automatically, because the other person is working, you feel motivated that you need to work, instead of looking at other distractions. And for that, the other person also needs to be accountable. This is a little difficult, but it is not impossible to achieve. Study buddies are a very good way to work, because you will finish task and you will have, like, okay, I have accomplished this, the other person might have also accomplished something, so it works well for both, symbiosis basically. So the next one is rewarding milestones. So our brain is very used to having cheap dopamine. That is what we were talking about as instant gratification. So instant gratification is when you do something and immediately you're having the dopamine in your mind. That is what social media or television or YouTube scrolling, all of this gives us instant gratification. Now when we don't get that from academia, it's very difficult for us to get into the zone. So there, what we can do is, as I talked about the Pomodoro method, there you tell yourself that if I finish this much, I get to do this. Suppose a person might be interested in dancing or singing songs or gaming or watching something or having some stand up comedy or maybe going down and playing. So there you can say, if I finish this task, this particular task, what I have set to do, then I can go and do what I want to do actually. So it is basically work first, entertainment later kind of setting in the reward milestones. So that is what this strategy is talking about, being positive for even the smallest wins, smallest tasks that are completed, rather than waiting for, okay, after this exam is done, after the results are come, then I will reward myself. So instead of doing that, we can reward ourselves on a smaller basis, on the small chunk size. So this is what I was talking about. Getting started is very, very difficult. So the effort that is involved in getting started is more when compared to finishing it. But if you put in that effort initially, then you come, you make peace, you reach the peak of the mountain, you make peace. Okay, already I have reached here, I can do little more, you push yourself, and then you end up finishing it. By the time, you can also cover whatever task you have to do in that particular time. The next strategies are visual progress charts. So you can make a whiteboard or a small white chart kind of thing where you're tracking. Suppose, say, a student is preparing for their board exam, they need to complete certain 14 chapters of mathematics. So what happens there, they can go with, they can start writing, okay, these chapters, this I have to cover, these chapters, this I have to cover. If it is very visually presented, then they can go and tick. Now when you start ticking, I have completed this, I have finished this, then the brain's desire to complete all of that and keep that streak alive on a day to day basis will be more when compared to when you take the textbook and start just doing it from the textbook. So visual progress charts are when you track your milestones visually, so that your brain is like, I am getting the dopamine by completing it. Next thing that I'll talk about is the next step posted. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to do to sit down and do a to-do list. So what happens there is, you can just write a sticky note or note it down somewhere that this is what I have to do next. So what happens is, when you move out from the zone and come back, it's easy for you to zone in back. What next thing that I'll be talking about is changing the scenery. So what happens to student if they're sitting in the same zone, same place, same workspace table, they might feel little bored or they might feel little frustrated. Why am I doing this? I need to move to some other place. So you can choose some other rooms or some other spaces in the house or in the academic setting where the student can actually have that reset for the brain, where they are seeing different things, they're interested and interactive with the surrounding and with their academia. So changing the screen scenery is, one of the things that can help with academic procrastination, because sometimes when they're bored, they're like, I don't want to do it. So that is one thing. Next thing is gamify the grind. So studying is not easy for anybody, to be very honest, unless the person or the student is getting dopamine from the task. So gamifying it, like there is something, I think children might know what XP points are. If you're a gamer, you know what XP points are. If you get this many XP points, you get to unlock a certain feature or something like that. So either the student or the parent or the responsible adult around can help the student create some game like strategies for studying, so that it makes it easier. Next strategy is verbal teaching, where suppose the student is finding it difficult to understand or how to go about it, the student can explain the material out loud to an audience or even to a mirror, where the student will know where I'm going wrong and how I have to be better. So that kind of setup where the student is actually talking out loud, listening to their own voice, seeing what is happening, going through all the material, they will find it, okay, this is where I'm going wrong. And when they see that that place they're going wrong, that is their learning cap, eventually their brain will tell them that, okay, I should work on this to be better. So that is one another strategy that can help. And the last strategy that I'll be talking about is chopping down massive assignments. Now, this can be for teachers and parents and students as well. Instead of writing on the to do list, read biology, read this chapter, read this, make it very, very specific, very, very small, very, very micro, so that it's very easy for the student to think, okay, this much only, I can finish this immediately. Then their dopamine hike comes into picture again. So that is what task micro slicing means. You chop down a task, but consistently work along it so that you can finish it. Here, the example I've given is, instead of writing down read biology, the student can write read science, page number 84 and 85. Being very specific makes the student more, capable of sitting down and actually doing that task, rather than thinking, I need to finish the whole chapter or I need to finish the whole question answer session. So that is another strategy that can be used for coping up with the academic procrastination. Now, coming to how parents can help. Most of the times what happens is, when the parent is seeing the student or the child not doing the work, what happens, they start telling that, you're still not started, you're so lazy, when will you finish the work? If this is the case, you will not reach anywhere, you cannot reach success, you will not reach grades. So these are common phrases that all the parents use on an basis, where they see the children not starting their work. Instead of that, it is very essential for the parent or the responsible adult around to understand why the child is doing that. They are not lazy. And instead of nagging them, do it, do it, do it, we can start using collaborative techniques. Instead, for example, replacing commands replacing commands like do it now immediately, otherwise I'm not going to give you food, or something like that. We can use certain things like just 10 minutes rule, where you go and collaborate along with the student, sit with them for 10 minutes and say, this is okay, this is what you need to start, we will do this, are you finding it difficult here? Okay, I can help with you. So when you start with the child gets engaged and involved in the work, rather than getting distracted and feeling I cannot do it. And that is the main thing, where effort, you pitch in your effort as well, and the child also put in some kind of effort, so that you can start climbing the mountain. The next thing that we as parents or responsible adults can talk to the children about is that, whatever I have discussed, instead of making huge tasks, we can make micro deadlines, or we can also make a day menu, where, like, on, okay, Monday, you finish homework, you finish this part of this subject, and then you can go on doing like this. So you give a day menu, which is flexible for the child. Whenever they are in the mood of doing, say, a particular subject or something, the child should be able to change what they want to do. And that enables the child to feeling like, okay, studying is actually enjoyable, or academic work is actually enjoyable, rather than having strict timetables, rigid and timetables or structures or timings also, which will affect their psychology and say, what is this, why should I do this, why, what is the reason, what is the need, anyways I will study, why am I made to sit here, why am I forced, kind of things. So instead of that, we can use a flexible daily menu, and that can be a collaborative thing again, where you sit along with the child and jot down things, what can be done, how it can be done, what are the resources required, what are the materials required. So if you can plan it around this, I think the child would be more interested and consistent in doing that. So the next thing, as a home ecosystem where the responsible adult is involved, should not be doing here is peer comparison. Your friend has done it, see, he got better marks, or she got better marks, or she got better ranks. Instead of using those kind of statements, we should actually talk to the children and get them involved in competing with their own self. Suppose, say for example, you have done 20 minutes of work yesterday, today let us try to do 25, or if 25 is way too much, we can say 22 minutes or 22.5 minutes, like that kind of a scenario where you're trying to engage the child in a very positive collaborative way to actually engage in academia, rather than putting them down for doing something that they are actually supposed to do. Here the example I have given is, instead of panicking the night before a 10 page project, the parent can use the just 10 minutes rule, and also the daily menu, where they can draft a rough hypothesis on how the task is supposed to be done. And whatever mistakes are done, it is easy for the parent and the child to correct it, so that it will be very, the outcome will be very efficient, and um, efficient and what is expected basically. And after this, as parents, we can also give them some kind of treats, like the earlier I was talking about rewarding small milestones. So that can also be done here as parents, to help children um, you know being engaged in their academia. So coming, as we are almost nearing the end of this presentation or the seminar, so the golden rule here is that the child should not be feeling inspired to start a difficult task or motivated to start a difficult task. They should blindly just start. Start is the key. And when you start, the action automatically generates energy and motivation for the child to actually work with the task, rather than wasting time waiting around it and destroying that motivation. So what you can also do is, from today's session itself, you can pick out one micro habit, which is probably, say, pre-written to-do list. You can sit down and try experimenting with that micro habit today itself, so that you can implement it in your future study sessions. And the key takeaway is that most of the real change with respect to studying academic habits, it starts small, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight where you need to finish one whole syllabus overnight. That's not going to happen. Rather, the student and the parent and the teacher should be collaboratively involved, where the child is actually putting consistent effort on a daily basis to make that change actually happen. So, this is a quote given by Mark Twain. The secret of getting ahead is actually simply getting started. With that, I like to end the session and in for questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Harshita ma'am, for such an insightful and inspiring session. Your practical suggestions on overcoming procrastination, managing academic stress, and building productive study routines have certainly given us valuable guidance. The simple yet effective strategies you shared will undoubtedly help students become more organized, focused, and confident in their learning journey. I'm sure all the participants have gained meaningful takeaways that they can start implementing immediately. So we shall now move into the interactive question and answer session. Participants may kindly post their questions in the chat box, and we will take up a few questions and invite Harshita ma'am to share her valuable insights. So there is this one question already. How long should a student study continuously before taking a break? And we can also put it as how many hours should a student ideally study each day?
So, ideal student study time is something that does not exist, because the student should actually, study effectively. Suppose, say, a child is seated at the study table studying for 2 hours. It does not make a difference if their learning is only surface level. If they're efficiently seated and working there, they can do the same 2 hour task in probably, say, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So efficiently working is more important than having a time bound limit for any study schedule.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And the next question from a parent is how can students manage distractions from mobile phones and social media?
So that is a very common problem. Not only students, most of us face. There are certain instances where even parents are trying to cook and they burn the dish because they are on their phones. So what can be done? There is something called do not disturb mode. I think most of us know about that. Or you can actually put the device or gadget. It may not be just a phone. It can be a television. It can be an iPad. It can be a tablet. Whatever it is, you can put it away from your study zone, so that you know that your study zone is only devoted to academia and not to distractions. The farther the distraction is, the easier it is for you to motivate yourself to work and study.
I guess also parental controls settings can
Yeah,
also be set.
parental control settings. There are so many tools we can use. Digital app blockers. Many app
Yeah.
blockers are also there where, after a certain time you cannot access that app. So that can also be done.
Next is how can students stay motivated to study regularly? I guess that was there. That don't wait for a motivation, just start. But
We should not be waiting for a motivation, because if we wait for a motivation, we will end up waiting. So just start 2 minutes into it, put in your energy, and then you will be able to reach where you want to.
does multitasking while studying is it effective?
No, it is highly, highly objectionable, if I can say it. Research suggests that multitasking is something that will reduce your concentration. So, I have seen many students who listen to music while doing their homework, watch some YouTube video while doing their homework, or they're doing two things at a time, which is not advisable, because what happens there is you're giving your brain too many tabs to work on. So your brain should actually have just one tab to work on. That is when you're actually going to absorb whatever you're doing. It's going to be effective and efficient. Otherwise, it's just distributing and putting your hands into everything rather than just one thing. And what can be a consequence is you may not finish what you're supposed to do because of that kind of distraction. And that multitasking is actually a distraction, which we are not entertaining here.
Say we have three subjects of homework. If a child is not able to do maths, but he or she can switch to English and then come back to maths later. That can be done.
Yes, that can be done. But I mean, doing maths homework while doing English homework is not practical. That's
Yes.
There are children who do that as well. But yeah.
Yeah. I guess one of the last question is how can students recover if they have already wasted a lot of time?
So this is something that, when we enter into the guilt zone, that I wasted so much time, how do I recover? Instead of entering into the guilt zone, if you think practically and start actually working there also, you will be able to reach somewhere rather than staying at zero. Okay, so if you wasted time, instead of thinking of, okay, I wasted this much time, I will start now. That is the kind of positive attitude that all students should maintain. And that's not very easy. That comes with a lot of, conversations from the parent side, from the peer group, from the teachers. That comes with a lot of counseling, if I may call it. So it's not easy to do that, but then that is suggested rather than thinking that I have wasted so much time, because anyways, gone time is gone time, you cannot recover it. So
One more question. What is the one habit that has the greatest impact on long-term academic success?
one habit that is Can you come again?
That is very impactful for a long-term academic success.
Okay, so academic success is actually directly related to consistent effort. So if you can do, if you see somebody who is excelled in academia, they have a track record of doing tasks on an everyday basis rather than chunking it up and saying, okay, Sunday I have whole day, I will study. So that's where Sunday I have whole day, I will study is actually a procrastinator's mindset. So shifting from that into, okay, today I will do this much, tomorrow I will do this much. That is the mindset that that a person needs as a habit to reach academic success.
Okay. That's it for the questions, ma'am. We already have reached 7:40. So as we come to the end of the today's webinar, let us remember that success is not achieved in a single day. It is built through small daily actions, disciplined habits, and consistent efforts. Every student has the potential to achieve great things when they learn to overcome procrastination, manage stress effectively, and develop productive study habits. Be it morning or night, it depends. On behalf of Rockwoods International School and Rockwoods Junior College, I extend my sincere gratitude to Ms. Harshita ma'am for sharing her valuable insights and practical strategies with us this evening. I also thank all our participants for their enthusiastic presence and active engagement. Do stay connected with Rockwoods for more enriching and empowering learning sessions in the upcoming weeks. So see you on Saturday. Until then, remember, don't wait for tomorrow to begin. Start today, stay consistent, and success will follow. Thank you. Always in the cause of education. Team Rockwoods, signing off.